Hello everybody, it's Foxy speaking, and welcome to another episode of Foxy's Fun Inspirational Chats. And today I will be your host. And in this episode, this is another part of the Learning Steam Railway History with Foxy. But is this the final part of the Learning Steam Railway History with Foxy, finishing things off? Well, I don't know. Well, we're going to see in this very episode, shall we? Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway, which is where we're at next. Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway is in Cumbria. Ravenglass, that's also Cumbria, by the way. 16 miles, 26 kilometres south of Whitehaven. That's almost likely Cumbria, almost certainly likely Cumbria. It would be hard to quibble with the claim of the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway that no other miniature railway in Britain passes through such magnificent scenery. Nor is it law or likely to be taken away, since approval would never be given for such a railway today, passing as it does through the Lake District National Park for much of its length of almost 7 miles, 11 kilometres. Its origins go back to 1875, when a line was opened from the old Roman port of Ravenglass to hematite mines in Eskdale. Both mines and railway were soon in financial difficulties, but the latter soldiered on, carrying both freight and passengers until 1913. That would have been the end of the Ratty, as it has long been known locally, had it not been for the Northampton model engineer and architect W.J. Bassett Loke. He leased the line, reduced the gauge from 3 foot to 900 millimetres to 15-inch 375 millimetres, and reopened it to tourists and later to stone traffic. Despite some serious ups and downs, since then, its future has been secured because enough people delighted in its character, which in large measure stems from the beauty of Eskdale. The famous writer of Lake District walking books, Alfred Wainwright, regarded Eskdale as the finest of all valleys for those whose special joy is to travel on foot, and a paradise for artists. Most people begin their journey at the Ravenglass end, which can be reached by train from either Carlisle or from Carnforth and Barrow-in-Furness. Both lines hug the coast and are highly recommended. The Ravenglass and Eskdale has almost taken over the main line station at Ravenglass. The main building is a pub, the Ratty Arms. Sounds funny. The Ratty Arms. Funny stuff. The waiting room on the opposite platform is a well-presented museum about the railway's history. And the goods shed has been converted into workshops. Trains for the 40-minute journey to Dallegarth Eskdale leave from the adjacent 3-platform station. You pass the signal box, which pioneered radio signalling in Britain, more workshops, the engine shed, and the new carriage shed as the train leaves Ravenglass and heads for the first halt at Muncaster Mill. In the distance can be seen another, the world's first atomic power station at Calder Hall, now Sellafield. The River Mite accompanies the train on its approach to Muncaster Mill and Farm. Flour has been ground on this site since at least 1455, and though today's recently renovated structure dates from about 1700, organic flour is now ground daily and sold to visitors. Throughout the journey, an unfolding series of panoramas of the Lakeland Mountains opens up. Steeple, pillar, great gable, scaffell and scaffell pipe. For the latter part of the journey, Harterfell is the dominant peak. Seen in the distance to the right, the line itself passes through a mix of open pasture fringed with dry stone walls and woods of birch and conifers. Bracken, gorse and heather cover some of the slopes, making this a line to beckon visitors in all seasons to experience the variety of colours. Journey's End and Dallegarth is an opportunity to examine the locomotive as it moves on the turntable or takes water for the return. The railway's 6 steam locomotives date from 1900 to 1976 and have to be capable of hauling up to 25-ton trains on the steep gradients, some as severe as 1 in 2. The oldest, Bonnie Dundee, was built for Dundee's gasworks and has had to be re-gauged, but the veteran is Sinolda. This octogenarian from Bassett Loke's works dates from 1912 and was the first 15-inch 380mm gauge Ravenglass and Eskdale locomotive. It is used only on special occasions, lacking the power and relative youth of the other original engines. During winter weekdays, the railway journey starts from Eskdale, reflecting the importance of any public transport to the remote valley community. To operate these services, the Ravenglass and Eskdale Railway has a number of diesel locomotives. Train service daily from Easter to October, weekends in November and February. No service in January. Centre specials in December. Telephone 01229 717 171. Tanfield Railway, County Durham. County Durham was where my great-grandfather grew up in. My late great-grandfather Bertie. I mean, he's no longer with us now, but he grew up in County Durham. Tanfield. 6 miles, 9.5 kilometres southwest of Newcastle upon Tyne. Few preserved railways can rival the Tanfield Railway for claims to historical fame. It is the world's oldest working railway and offers passengers sight of the world's oldest surviving railway bridge. These attributes are a clue to the railway's past, for the earliest railways, usually horse-drawn wagonways, were nearly all built to carry coal, in this case from the pits of County Durham to waiting colliers on the River Tyne. Thought to have been opened in stages between 1712 and 1725, the railway later became a steam-worked branch of the North Eastern Railway. Its industrial ancestry is perfectly reflected in a large number of industrial tank engines based at Marley Hill Shed, close to the main station at Andrews House. Many operated on the dense network of colliery lines that bisected the northeast, the oldest and irregular performer on the Tanfield Railway, was built in nearby Gateshead as long ago as 1873. Few preserved railways can field such a veteran, and no other railway can match the antiquity of the Tanfield's carriages, all of which date from the 19th century. A ride on the Tanfield Railway is a corrective to those who think of industrial landscapes as being irredeemably ugly. The section between the stone platforms and station building at Andrews House and the southern terminus at East Tanfield is through a deepening gorge lined with oak trees and a smattering of beech, ash and silver birch. It is worth getting off the train at Causey or returning by the network of paths through the woods to admire both the massive embankment leading to the Causey Arch and the bridge itself. When the latter was built in 1725-1727, it was compared with the Via Appia, the greatest Roman road in Italy, and celebrated in prints. It is not hard to understand why people came from all over the country to see the bridge. Its single 150-foot, 32-metre arch soars 80 feet, 24 metres above the Causey Burn in a setting worthy of a landscape painting, and it remains the largest single-span bridge in Britain for 30 years. The reason for the railway's preservation lies in the survival of the engine shed at Marley Hill, which, until 1970, maintained locomotives from the area's colliery railways, despite the closure of the rest of the Tanfield Railway in 1962. The stone building was put up in 1855 and is thought to be the oldest engine shed in the world, still fulfilling its original function. So authentic is the atmosphere in its machine shop that it has been used as a setting in the filming of a Catherine Cookson novel. Despite the complete disappearance of the surrounding coke works, colliery and rows of miners' houses at Marley Hill, the Tanfield Railway continues to evoke the true character of the industrial railway in a way that few other preserved railways can. Train service, Sundays and bank holiday weekends from January to November. Also Thursdays and Saturdays from mid-July to early September. Telephone 01207 280 643. Bowness and Kinneil Railway, Falkirk, Bowness, 15 miles, 24 kilometres west of Edinburgh. That's Scotland, by the way, Edinburgh. For those of you who don't know, but I think most of you already know this by now, I would quite conceivably assume. The closure of railways in Britain has seldom been accompanied by sensible provisions to safeguard the integrity of the trackbed and structures in case they were needed again. Nonetheless, most railway preservation schemes were on the scene quickly enough to prevent the principal buildings being demolished or sold off. A notable exception was the Bowness and Kinneil Railway on the southern shore of the Firth of Forth. When the preservationists began work, they lacked even the remains of the trackbed or any foundations on which to rebuild a working railway. It is a measure of their achievements that Bowness Station deceives most visitors into thinking that it is the original. The setting is striking. Inland, the town of stone buildings rises up the hillside, crowned by the villas of the more well-to-do. Seaward are the remains of the harbour on which the town's wealth was largely based. At one time, 11 miles, 17.6 kilometres of sidings covered the waterfront. The wagons filled with coal for export or with imported iron ore and timber. Today, the site is home to the largest collection of locomotives, carriages and wagons in Scotland, where most of them were built or worked. The building that commands admiration is the huge cast and wrought iron train shed built in 1842 for Haymarket Station in Edinburgh. The rescue of what is one of the finest buildings on any preserved railway was part of the intention to recreate an authentic North British Railway station. That pre-grouping company owned the 4.5–7 kilometre line that linked Bowness with the Edinburgh-Glasgow main line at Manuel. Before boarding the train, it is worth taking the visitor trail round the goods yard with its wagon turntables, used in restricted sites, and through the vast shed that houses much of the collection. Pride of place amongst the carriages must go to the Great North of Scotland Railway Saloon, which was once part of Edward VII's royal train. However, most of the carriages illustrate just how Spartan travelling conditions were for third-class passengers until the early years of this century. Locomotives range from mainline passenger engines to humble industrial tank engines, from the days when large factories and works would be rail-connected and have a pug, as they were called in Scotland, fussing round the yard. The start of the 3.5-mile, 5 kilometre journey to Birkhill, the present terminus of the line, passes the dock. On the right, before the train meanders through a plantation of saplings that now covers the foreshore. Kinneil Halt is used by birdwatchers visiting the adjacent bird sanctuary on the headland. The line forges inland, the deepening bark from the locomotive's exhaust indicating the rising gradient. As the line enters a woodland of ivy-clad trees, it passes close to Kinneil House, where an outbuilding was the scene of James Watt's experiments to produce more efficient steam engines. The ugly site of Grangemouth oil refinery across the Firth soon disappears from view as the line swings inland and crosses the site of the Antonine Well, built by the Romans as a bulwark against invasion by the Caledonians. A mile of pastoral landscape precedes arrival at Birkhill, a remote station seemingly offering visitors nothing more than the pretty station building with its oversized cast iron brackets supporting the canopy. However, simply to return by the next train would be to miss one of the most interesting experiences to be had from a journey on a preserved railway. Behind the station, hidden by trees, are the remains of the boiler house of Birkhill Clay Mine, unremarkable to all except industrial archaeologists. But beyond is an extraordinary sight. The ground drops away to reveal a precipitous gorge through which the River Avon flows. A long flight of steps parallels a rope-worked inclined plane which holds small wagons called clutches. Upon the hillside from the mine in the valley floor. At the bottom, a bridge over the river leads to the mine entrance. The 6 miles, 9.6 kilometers of tunnel were worked as recently as 1980, and retired miners now take parties through some of the workings. Hundreds of feet below the ground, torches can pick out the remains of tree trunks that were fossils 170 million years before the first dinosaurs. What was extracted from the mine was turned into fire bricks capable of withstanding very high temperatures. They were used in many industries, not least in locomotive fireboxes. The driver of the locomotive that takes your train back to Bowness may let you see the brick arch in the firebox, making an immediate link with the mine and the guide's personal recollections. Train service at weekends from April to mid-October and daily from mid-July to end August. Santa specials, telephone 01506 822 298. How many more have we got? Almost over. Mull and West Highland Narrow Gauge Railway. No, actually we'll do that in the next part. The end. Mull and Highland Narrow Gauge Railway will be next after this part, having done the previous one, Bowness and Kinneil Railway. But thanks everybody for watching this video. This is not quite the last part as of yet, but will the next part be the last part of learning steam railway with history? Well, we shall certainly see. Thanks for watching, and ta-ta another time. From Foxy.